Recently, a well-known business in Kenya advertised for a design job. Now, they offered to pay the winning designer in coffee and an internship. Once you realize that, one, coffee is not a legal tender that you can present at any bank in Kenya, and two, the word internship or even intern is not mentioned in the Kenyan Employment Act, then you realize that they were taking us for a ride, which then created a public debate around the idea of internships, whether people should get paid or not paid, and whether people working in internships for free is exploitation. Today, I'll be talking more about that and giving you a few options on how you might make an internship work in your favor. So let's get started. Welcome back. My name is Njeri. On this channel, we talk about entrepreneurship, storytelling, and excellence. If those sound like topics you might be interested in, hit the subscribe button. If you would like to spread the positivity, hit the like button and then the share button. One of the most divisive questions in the formal employment world is, should interns be paid? To fully understand this question, we need to look at the history of internships, or as other people call them, apprenticeships. An apprentice was somebody who worked under a master or a professional to learn a certain skill. Now, traditionally, an apprentice would move into their boss's home. They would not get married in the period of their internship. They would not receive any compensation or wages. And the internship could last anything from a year to up to 7 years. So when you look at it that way compared to exposure looks a lot better. But because of capitalism and how our society is set up, today people use internships as an opportunity to exploit people. Plus, initially, internships was strictly for educational purposes. Now that we have educational institutions taking on the role of education, internships become a little bit more complicated, and we'll get into that shortly. When we look at the local context, an apprenticeship was recognized legally in the 1950s. This meant that people could work as apprentices in technical skills. These are things like carpentry, electrical work, mechanical skills, and other technical jobs. For white-collar jobs, a lot of the people who went into formal employment needed a high school certificate. I'm sure you heard of your grandfather or your great-uncle, or maybe even your dad, of how he immediately finished high school and got a job. So this was the norm then. But if you look at it today, the reality is quite different. A lot of people have a college or a university certificate, some have masters, but the jobs are just not there. And so internships serve as a good opportunity for you to experience the formal workplace, one, as you wait to get a job, and two, just to understand the reality of the workplace, and even as an opportunity for you to gauge whether this is something that you actually want to do in the long term. So when you look at it, then you ask yourself then, how do we compensate, or how do we take care of people who are looking for internships? To fully understand the conversation around compensation for interns, we need to look at why people are taking on internships. So the first thing is people who take on internships as part of their coursework. So if you're taking on internship as part of your coursework, first of all, it then shows that you have not graduated, and by the formal definition of an expert, you're still not an expert. You're still in the learning process. And for that reason, asking for compensation may not be justifiable. You could get compensated, but it shouldn't limit you or stop you from taking on the internship. Think of what teachers do over the holidays for their teaching practice, or even what doctors do in rounds as part of their coursework before they graduate. Now, this is different from an internship that is postgraduate. After you graduate or after you've completed your course, it means that an institution that is approved to do this has approved you as somebody who can work in a formal setting. So think about it as going back to the doctor. If somebody has completed their medical degree and now they're going into residency, they've already been certified as a doctor, and now residency is just an opportunity for them to polish up their skills. And because the residency is long, they get paid. The same thing should apply to other fields. So for example, if you're in the IT field and you're working in something as simple as web design, if you've graduated, then it means you've been certified as a web designer. You may not have the experience, but you already have the skills that might be needed in a formal workplace. So if you've already graduated or you've already completed your coursework, then you need to approach the internship a little bit differently. One, you need to look at the skills or knowledge you might have. This will depend on the kind of opportunities you took advantage of while you are still learning and what you can offer to a workplace. Now, understandably, you will come across people who don't want to pay you. So we will talk about that much later, where if you feel like an opportunity is right for you and they're not paying, what to do. But for this case, you should seek opportunities which are more employment or internships where the people tell you that it will automatically lead to employment if you fulfill certain criteria. The third factor to consider when looking at compensation for an intern is what you, as the person seeking the internship, are looking for. So different people will be looking for different things at an internship. There are people who are genuinely just looking to learn. For them, it's more about the skills and understanding how that particular industry or sector functions. The second group of people is people who are looking for connections. These are people who already have skills but do not have the ability to maneuver and access opportunities that are available in that industry. And so they know that by working as interns or by taking on an internship, they will get first the connections, the access, and even the ability to understand how people access opportunities. And lastly is people who are looking for internships because they want brand association. Now, there are specific industries where if you've worked with a certain company, you will get better opportunities within that industry. So for example, people who've worked at tech companies, if somebody has worked at Apple, it's easier for them to get an interview at a company like Google, Twitter, Facebook, or those other huge tech companies than if somebody had worked as maybe a developer in a startup. So that brand association might work better in the long term for them. So looking at these different factors, when we come back to the conversation around compensation, money is always a good thing, but money is not everything. So you, as the person seeking the internship, you need to look at first what you need from that internship, whether it's something that is more mandatory where being choosy will not work in your favor, or whether there's something very specific that you're looking for. Money is good, but it's not the only thing you should consider in all situations, and especially where you have more to gain from the internship than you have to offer. So you need to weigh the situation and assess the reality on the ground to determine, is this an internship I can do for free or must I be paid? Now, we need to understand that internships like this or unpaid internships work better for people who are privileged. By privilege, I mean people who are living with their parents, people who are living with relatives, so they do not have rent, younger people who do not have responsibilities of a family, of a kid, of a wife, of a husband, and that sort of thing. And also people whose parents can afford to pay for them to do the internship for free. So this is where your parents can be able to pay for your transport, can be able to pay for your meals, and sort of sustain you during the time of the internship. If you do get such an internship that is unpaid, there are a few things to consider. One is make sure that it's a very fixed term sort of internship. An internship generally should be 3 months, and then the organization or you can choose to extend. Now, make sure that you have the ability to negotiate. Don't get into an indefinite relationship with a company that is not paying you. Secondly, make sure that the internship is flexible, and especially if the internship is not offering any form of compensation in terms of fare or transport. This is because if you have to travel to an office every other day, it will cost you. So you need to negotiate in a way, for example, you only need to be in the office 3 times a week and you can do some of the tasks remotely. This way, the pressure or the stress or the financial burden on you is reduced. And lastly, you need to be able to negotiate how you're learning. Again, remember that the very concept or at the heart of an internship is learning. So do not accept a free internship where all you're doing is running errands or getting coffee for everybody in the office. Sit down with a human resource person in that office or your supervisor and come up with a set of expectations for your learning, but also from the organization. So for example, the people who you might need to shadow or the kind of tasks that they might entrust you with, and even as an opportunity for you to go a step further, come up with a new project that you think might serve the company and that you can complete with the company's resources and offer to work on it concurrently with your internship. This way, by the time you leave the internship, you have a real life example of a project that you sort of initiated and worked through the kinks of it to fully understand how your industry works, and this should work in your favor. When exploring the idea of taking on a free internship or an unpaid internship, you need to again explore your options. If you have a company that is willing to continue giving you an opportunity to learn versus being a 20-year-old who is at home doing nothing, then it might be better for you to take on the internship. This is because it's easier for you to access opportunities if you're in the thick of things. If, let's say, the company is employing or somebody needs to recommend someone, or somebody needs somebody to help them with something where there might be an opportunity for you to get paid, it's easier for you to access such an opportunity when you're already within the formal workplace than when you're at home. Again, this is quite contentious for different people, and what I'm sharing here is strictly my opinion. Lastly, when you're looking at compensation as an intern, you should not accept to work for free in certain circumstances, and I'll share some scenarios with you. One is like for the company I mentioned earlier. If whatever they're advertising is something they would otherwise pay somebody to do. So for example, if a company is rebranding or trying to design a new product, they would pay a designer to do that. So for them to try and take advantage of somebody who might be desperate for the opportunity, that is wrong, and you should not support such a culture. Secondly, you should not intern for an organization if they plan on hiring somebody and they're just delaying it because they know you can work for free. So for example, if you're working for an organization where a former employee left, so you've interned there for 3 months, maybe even 6 months, you've learned what they normally do and you can do it as well as the employee, and even other people on the team rely on you to complete the job, and the company is not hiring somebody because they know they can get you for free, then you should walk out. Now, that is no longer an opportunity for you to learn. That is no longer an opportunity that is serving you. This is outright exploitation, and you should not be in a position where you encourage that at all. And you may feel like you don't have the power to walk away. You may feel like the company owes you, or you may feel indebted to a company that has already offered you an internship. There is power in knowing your value. There is power in stepping away and giving people an opportunity to really miss you and to really determine your value, and then they will call you back with an offer. And if they do not, trust me, there's always an opportunity out there that will appreciate your skills enough to compensate you. With that being said, it's up to you to determine whether you can afford or cannot afford an unpaid internship. Until next time, stay authentic, stay being you. There's always an opportunity for you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment down below and let me know, have you ever taken on an unpaid internship? Are you currently in one? or are you in an entanglement with your employer? Until next time, bye bye.